It is fundamentally the same divide and conquer bullshit that the capitalist class has been using to pit immigrant workers against native-born workers for centuries in this country, actually.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Really quick, we've got a caller on the line. Have a couple, 60 seconds, 714 area code. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning. Buenos dias to everybody. Jose Francisco Negrete calling from Anaheim, California, 92805. I'm part of Teamsters Mobilized. There's a couple of things I would like to discuss. One, automation and UPS is a big problem. And the general president is correct. There's language that talks about automation, Article 6, Section 4, but that article is not being addressed. UPS is just clearly running through it with all these automations happening in Grande Vista, Commerce City, Colorado, Oklahoma City, Swan Island, and Portland. So we just need to enforce that language. And you guys were talking about Trump, and and we just see what's happening right now with these immigration raids happening in several U.S. cities. I was listening to my general president's podcast, Better Bad Ideas, with Sean O'Brien. He had Senator Josh Hawley on, and he discussed immigration, and he was just right-wing talking points. You know, nobody's protecting undocumented workers that are criminals. You know, undocumented workers are not stealing jobs. You know, but he gets on his podcast and he says these things. And we had a caller a couple of weeks ago complain about and rightfully so, talk about how the left just gives them carte blanche to say whatever and doesn't hold them accountable. I mean, this guy's attacking, this guy does not understand the principles of international solidarity. This guy doesn't understand the principles of an injury one to injury none. We're all workers, regardless if you're a U.S. citizen or you're an undocumented worker. We're all workers. We all should stand together. And I don't know if you guys had the RUD1 comrade. I want them to hopefully they win their election. I think it's coming up in February, I believe, mid-February. Mm-hmm. You know, tomorrow Teamsters Mobilized is going to have a general membership meeting. So we're going to discuss this. You can go on our social medias and look for the link right there. But the link is bit.ly/TM-13. That's the link for tomorrow's meeting. We're going to discuss the Amazon strike and discuss it and listen to those that participated, you know, either showed up to the picking line like I did, you know, and other comrades did as well. But yes, I don't know if the RUD1 comrade has spoken yet or not.
Yeah, they were on earlier in the show, and we
okay. So
yeah, appreciate it, Jose. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yep.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Jose. We got to get to Harvey, but yeah, I appreciate you lifting that up about those comments. I will be sure to check that out.
I watched it. I watched it a couple nights ago. It wasn't very good. I was hoping that he would at least just for the, you know, just to give the the play act the idea of being independent and whatever, and ask Josh Hawley why he voted against confirming Lauren McFerrin at the NLRB. I figured that he would have to do that. So
he wasn't doing any tough grilling. Instead, it was more kind of playing along, and that would be my concern. It was just
backpatting and that's frankly
and when you have
PG way to put it,
right, really. When you have you know, as Jose said, these, you know, really devastating raids happening, and you have this, you know, just ridiculous attack on immigration, our immigrant brothers and sisters. Yeah, that's really concerning. Really, really concerning. So appreciate you lifting that up.
Yeah. We've got a caller on the line. Let's go ahead and bring a caller from a 510 area code on the air. What's your name and where are you calling from? Caller from a 510 area code.
Hey y'all, this is Kat. I'm a proud member of Teamsters Mobilized and Maoist Communist Union. Been listening to y'all's show for a bit now. I had wanted to follow up because you mentioned the show that Sean O'Brien, president of the Teamsters, did with Josh Hawley recently, and the stuff he said about immigration. I think it was Jacob who said like it was not great, which I feel is an understatement.
Yeah.
And just to underscore that, I want to give a direct quotation from that show. Towards the end of it, Sean O'Brien said, quote, "Social issues are all well and good, but protecting illegal immigrants that come into our country to commit crimes and steal jobs, that's a tough pill to swallow," end quote.
Social issues are all well and good, but, you know, protecting illegal immigrants that come into our country to commit crimes and steal jobs, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Which is obviously just the same line that Donald Trump is putting forward. But I think beyond that, even more generally, it is fundamentally the same divide and conquer bullshit that the capitalist class has been using to pit immigrant workers against native-born workers for centuries in this country, actually. And it's directly contrary to a working class perspective of how we relate to workers who come to this country, which is that we should organize and invite those brothers and sisters into our union so that we can fight together, fight against the bosses, and win not just economic victories, but as your last speaker was alluding to as well, like whole political victories for the entire working class. And that has happened time and time again throughout our history. So I feel like this kind of BS that Sean O'Brien is putting forward is really a betrayal of not just us in the Teamsters, but the working class movement generally. And I honestly think if somebody is thinking to themselves, oh, well, Sean O'Brien is putting forward like the capitalist perspective on immigration, but when it comes to his approach to organizing Amazon or protecting UPS workers against automation, well, then he'll just switch back to like representing the working class again. I think that's pretty diluted. And I do not think that to call that out is to attack our union. That's coming on my part from a place of deep love and commitment for the union, but we got to call it as we see it, call a spade. And that's pretty much it. So
thanks for the call, Kat. Yeah, I appreciate it.
As Jose had mentioned, we're talking about the recent Amazon strike at our TM meeting tomorrow. So hope folks can make it out. Solidarity. Thanks y'all for the content here.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for the call.
Really appreciate the call, Kat, and appreciate your point about solidarity. It is really, it should be a no-brainer for those of us in this movement that we are for working people, and it doesn't matter what you look like, where you come from, what you talk like. If you're a worker, you're one of us. We are together. We should be together. We should organize together. That's how we're stronger. That's how we win. That's how we make our lives better, and that's how we resist the power of those who seek to oppress and exploit us. And, I think it's also something that I bring up pretty often when these conversations come up is that we don't examine the root causes of immigration, the root causes of refugee crises, and the roles in which, American foreign policy plays in contributing to these people having to come here in the first place to look for a decent life. Because that is one of the heartbreaking things about it, is that folks are having to flee homes. Often, literally flee their homes. But even in, more economic type situations, people having to abandon their homes and their families and their cultures, their countries, flee thousands of miles just to try to have a decent life, just to put a roof over their head and, make a living. Something's wrong with that. People shouldn't have to do that. Just like I feel like I shouldn't have to leave Alabama to have a decent quality of life, for my daughter to have a decent future, to have, even an average American standard of life would be an upgrade here in Alabama. And, but we have folks who are desperate to even come to a place like this. Among the worst in the country. And so it's a really difficult conversation, and, appreciate the folks who are really speaking up for solidarity. I do not appreciate those who are pandering to xenophobia and to misinformation, because that is it's very harmful to folks, and I don't want to see any labor leaders, anyone speaking on behalf of our unions, engage in that kind of rhetoric, because we're better than that, or we should be.
Yeah, I listened to it, and I you know, and I think that I'm just a bit, even though I am more and more becoming less and less sympathetic to Sean O'Brien and what he's doing at the Teamsters. You know, I still think that there's some good things happening in the Amazon organizing that I'm excited about, and all of that stuff. But I listened to it, and I was like, come on, Sean, just give me one question. Just like one. This is, you know, it's not like you're just talking to Hassan, who's a streamer, and like, you know, you can just kind of paper over their differences. It's like you even as a senator, one of the 100 most powerful people in the country, it is very, very rare that your one vote has the opportunity to change the legal landscape for the better for millions of working people. And that is what Josh Hawley had the opportunity to do with the confirmation vote for Lauren McFerrin at the National Labor Relations Board.
Right.
And he voted against it. And when he was talking to Hassan, Sean O'Brien was lambasting, maybe rightly so, I don't know, but lambasting Kamala Harris for not getting there quickly enough. He was saying, oh, you know, maybe she had something, maybe, I can't even remember what it was, but maybe she was upset that she lost and she doesn't care anymore, and that's why it took her like 15 minutes longer to get there than it should have. And completely going over, like just completely absolving Josh Hawley, and literally the next thing that they talked about in that interview with where Sean O'Brien was on Hassan's show, literally the next thing that they talked about was how great Josh Hawley was. And no mention of his vote against confirming Lauren McFerrin. Like,
Right.
Ha!
Hey, 5 seconds, just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Yeah, it's very frustrating because you don't have to do that, right?
You don't have to do
You
that.
can acknowledge when people that you typically disagree with do something good.
Right.
You can, and in fact, I think you should.
Yes,
I
and
think
we
you
do.
should. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to point out when politicians that I frequently disagree with are doing something I can agree with, if it's actually going to help everyday people. And I'm willing to give people credit for that when they do that. You know, local example, State Senator Arthur Orr, he sponsored the really bad anti-union legislation last year that we fought so hard against. He sponsored the school choice bill. But you know what? He also sponsored a good bill that would have removed taxes on menstrual products and diapers. He, this year, is working on a bill that is, you know, would be a step in the right direction on civil asset forfeiture reform. Doesn't mean I, you know, am gonna give the guy any money to his campaign. Doesn't mean if I had an interview with him, I would just be 100% positive. But I'm willing to say where we have common ground and appreciate that, respect that. But, you know, I don't think you have to go so far as to, you know, cheerlead for someone that clearly isn't always doing what you would like them to do. One would hope, right? Because as a labor leader, that action, I mean, you have to be, you have to be concerned about that, right? You can't just paper over that. So that's very concerning. I think you can be a little more delicate and strategic and still give people credit where credit is due and still try to be bipartisan or nonpartisan more ideally. But just call balls and strikes like you see them. And I don't think that's really what's happening. It seems like there's games being played, and unfortunately, you know, some of the rhetoric that's being engaged in is just really hurtful.
Yeah, well, and the you know, in part of his support for Josh Hawley, he has talked about how, oh, well, we can agree to disagree on things that we disagree about, despite the fact that because of criticism of him by Rick Smith, he went on this huge crusade against Rick Smith and got Teamsters local unions to pull sponsorships for Rick Smith being the host of the Rick Smith Show, which is Rick Smith, a working Teamster, a member of the Teamsters Union, is on 50 radio stations nationwide, primarily in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. He's also on Free Speech TV, does this while he still drives a truck as a working Teamster.
A true asset to labor media.
Genuinely,
whatever you think of his politics or his commentary or his show or content, whatever, like that
is amazing.
Doing something great for the labor media landscape.
Seriously. And when Sean O'Brien came into office, he stopped the Teamsters International sponsorship for the Rick Smith Show, and it was not an insubstantial amount of money. I don't know if it's public, so I don't want to say the amount, but it was a significant amount that the Teamsters International was supporting this program, and they pulled it. And Rick Smith still held his punches until Sean O'Brien went around to Teamster dinners and was saying that Rick Smith needs to make a public apology to Sean O'Brien if he wants to maintain his good relationship with his union, and then began behind the scenes bending arms of Teamsters local officials to get them to pull their sponsorship for the show. I mean, if you want to talk about, like, we can agree to disagree, whatever, and you can agree to disagree and have a great relationship and be so really nice to Josh Hawley and about Josh Hawley, then you can agree to disagree with freaking Rick Smith,
one of your own members. Yeah,
for 30 something years, I think. I mean, yeah, it's really I'm just more and more being grossed out.
Yeah, and that really bothers me on a fundamental level because I believe in union democracy. Right. If I'm in a position of authority and you want to criticize the hell out of me, go for it. Right. That is your right as a member. And I support your right to do that. I may not like what you say. I may argue vigorously against you. That's all fine and well. Right. But that's the nature of it. Unions are supposed to be democracies. They are by and for us, the workers who make up these unions, and they're accountable to us, the members. We should have free speech and free right to criticize leadership, to criticize the union as an institution, to criticize certain actions that are taken by the union or its leadership. That's all fair game, right? And we can sometimes disagree on approach and tone and all that kind of stuff. That's all fair game too. But at a fundamental level, I really am rubbed the wrong way when you have leaders who do not tolerate criticism.
Yeah. Because
I think it shows a weakness of leadership if you cannot tolerate criticism and debate. Because bottom line, none of us have all the answers.
Right.
And if you're not willing to listen to people who may disagree or who have critique, you're missing something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I will say, Rai says in the chat, Sean O'Brien definitely seems better than Hoffa Jr. I mean, even with all that said, that's probably where I would land. I mean, because Hoffa Jr. has done this same stuff.
That was your choice, right?
Right.
I mean, it is what it is.
And Hoffa Jr. did the same stuff when he was president of the Teamsters. Frank Emspach also had a very popular union radio project that was on radio stations across the country that the Teamsters was supportive of, that Hoffa Jr. pulled the Teamsters support for a very similar reason, So I mean,
that to me, that speaks to deeper levels of
and like a culture.
You've got to revive the culture, and so like you said, there's a lot of good work happening in the Teamsters Union. There's a lot of good brothers and sisters and siblings out there doing great organizing, and want to celebrate that regardless of the leadership. What you think about them or what they're saying doesn't invalidate the quality of the work that folks are doing to organize in places like Amazon and UPS to spread this movement. So I want to give my encouragement and solidarity to all of you out there who are in the Teamsters Union, who are doing that good work. Whatever your affiliations, whatever your thoughts about leadership or anything like that, whatever your caucus is, like, if you're putting in the work, I appreciate you, and I want you to keep doing that regardless of any controversies that may arise.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.